Hey guys, let's talk Christopher Ward, a rather popular micro brand now, really treading the line between micro brand still and mainstream. I have here the C60 Sapphire model, and I'm going to use this watch as a base to talk about Christopher Ward, the brand, what kind of watches they have to offer, talk about the quality, and ultimately determine whether or not Christopher watches are worth your money and, of course, your time. Let's do it. So let's start off by talking about Christopher Ward, the brand. Who the heck are these guys? Now, Christopher Ward was founded back in 2004 by none other than Christopher Ward and some of his partners. And in their early years, they've really been focused on British design, Swiss made, very similar to our Fairer friends, which I've done a review of the Fairer brand on this channel as well. Now, Christopher Ward, especially in the early years, used a lot of off-the-shelf ETA and Sellita movements and just fitted them on the watches. But since then, they've really been pushing the boundaries of the technical prowess. They have an in-house modular moon phase that is absolutely gorgeous. I must be clear that it's not an in-house movement, but they created their own in-house module in order to enable a Sellita-based movement to have this moon phase basically rotating in real time and not incremental by day, which is quite impressive. They also have a in-house caliber with a 5-day power reserve, really impressive timepiece, gorgeous movement itself. So Christopher Ward really been trying to break out of that, generic micro brand movement circle, and I respect that. Now back to this watch here. This is the C60 Sapphire, and I'm going to use this as a base to talk about some of the innovations, creativity, and quality that you can expect out of a Christopher Ward timepiece. Now, the C60 series is one of their more popular series because Christopher Ward has really made a name, carved a name for themselves, really, in the dive space arena. In particular, for their really good proportions, they have a lot of their timepieces have both a 38 and a 42 millimeter option. They have really impressive water resistance. This particular watch here, for example, has 600 meter water resistant. So it's just very hard to find a below 40 millimeter, dive watch or even dive GMT watch with impressive water resistance and has that aesthetic, really helping out the slim wrist guys out there like myself. Now this timepiece, of course, the thing that sticks out most is the dial. This is a sapphire dial with a blue tint. Really hard to work with, quite impressive. Christopher Ward being one of the most early adopters of this technique that I know of. Notably, Bell & Ross also has a sapphire tinted blue skeleton watch. Now, the Bell & Ross timepiece goes for over 6,000 USD, whereas this Christopher Ward is just over 1,000 on the bracelet option and under 1,000 on the fabric. Now, more on this later, but this bracelet is quite impressive and I would say very much worth the price. A very impressive bezel action, nice click here, fairly limited playback, a really good lume. I love the design, the use of orange accents on the trident hand here, as well as the text and the hour markers. Very, I think, handsome case design with a satin finished case flank sandwiched by 2 polished hairline bevels. I think this is a very attractive case and not that easy to manufacture in that it has so many different finishing techniques. Now this watch also features an open case back, and again it has that blue tint. I love that it evokes the feel of a space exploration because it kind of has a gradient to it, lightening as you go towards the middle. And it's very beautiful. Of course, this is an SW200 movement, so it's not something that you really want to look clearly into anyways. But I really appreciate it. And the fact that this watch is 600 meters water resistance, it has an open case back, and manages to keep itself at a reasonable 13 millimeters in thickness is nothing short of impressive for Christopher Ward. I'm looking at you, Panerai, for the lame excuse of, depreciating your water resistance whenever you have a non-solid case back. This is just not the case for Christopher Ward, and I find that quite respectable. Now, I'm very impressed with the bracelet here, and I would highly recommend, in that, I'm not a bracelet guy and I love this thing. These have solid end lengths, very hefty. I like that it has a quick release option, which is quite uncommon with bracelets. But very importantly, this has a micro adjustment deployment clasp. So I can easily constrain this if things are a little cold and my wrists have contracted, but also expand if things are a bit humid. So very impressive clasp here. I think any dive watch piece that comes on a bracelet should have a micro adjustment option. I'm looking at Ju Breitling, Omega, everyone else essentially besides Rolex. I just don't think that's an excuse if Christopher Ward can do it for slightly above 1,000 USD. So what do I think? Christopher Ward, absolutely, I'm a big fan of this timepiece. I know it's not for everyone, it's a bit quirky, but it really just showcases Christopher Ward's willingness to do things that are technically challenging, to go out of the box. I really do feel like this micro brand here, that's almost jumping into the mainstream because they're getting so much popularity, really fills gaps that aren't covered by the big boys at Swatch or Richemont, and I appreciate it. So the next time you're looking for a kind of a micro brand or an out of the beaten path timepiece, certainly consider Christopher Ward. I would say the only drawbacks, probably that logo. People hate it. Some people say that's the one reason they won't buy it. Doesn't bother me as much. They really design around this logo to balance the logo, but I do admit, if I had one quirk about this watch, it's going to be the logo. It makes it look like a fashion watch, a little cheap here. But if you can get over the logo, the technical specs, the design, the up-and-coming history behind this brand, quite impressive indeed.